Royce the 5'9" is a Detroit rapper. Detroit rapper who is known for his lyricism. Over the years, he's done many collaborations with Eminem, freestyles, all that kind of stuff. That's put him on the map. And recently, he joined up with DJ Premier to do the Prime albums. 2014 was the album that I liked the most from Prime, and then recently they dropped Prime 2, which I thought was very meh, like completely average. Lyrically, I thought Royce was not on it at all, but pretty soon after we have a new album from Royce, which I'm pretty happy about because it's actually pretty damn good. Book of Ryan is a very personal album that was actually announced a couple of years ago when he released Layers, which I thought was pretty solid, but overall didn't really think it packed a punch in the production. But I think a lot of the tracks on this album actually are produced very well. It's a very personal album. I think Royce the 5'9" is not afraid to admit that. He's gone on record saying that this one is one that he wanted to say a lot because there's so much on his mind, so much that's happened, so much that he just wants to get out there. Which I appreciate. I mean, Royce the 5'9" can tell a story very well when he's on his ball. I mean, Tabernacle from the last album, Layers, was an amazing story, honestly. Really good and brilliantly told. And in terms of story, I wouldn't say many of the tracks on this album live up to Tabernacle. However, production-wise, as I've already said, most of the songs on this album top pretty much most of what I've heard from Royce's career so far, I'd say. Caterpillar, fucking brilliant. Oh my god, Eminem is... his verse, man, he destroys it. Oh my god. The way he's rapping on this track, I wish the production was like this, so fired up on the Revival album, because at least if the lyricism wasn't always that great or that sharp, we would have had good production, which we did not get on Revival at all. But here, he is just blowing it up. There's a really good hook as well. My god, just the entire track is just fire. Everything you want from a rap banger. Good lyrics, good flows, a decent chorus as well. I mean, it's just so rare to find in the mumble rap era. And okay, Eminem does call out the mumble rap era on this track, which really could have been left aside. I mean, he's still on that whole new rap is crap, I was the best of my time, nothing's as good as me anymore stuff. But I think with a track like this, he kind of has the right to say it because he's actually living up to the high pedestal that people have put him on, and he puts himself on as well. Great song. Dumb, brilliant piano-led beat and instrumental, so good. The chorus as well. Royce is basically just bragging here, you know, calling everyone else dumb and calling himself one of the best rappers around, but he doesn't get that kind of recognition. And yeah, the production does remind me of like mid-2000s era of like hip-hop and mainstream hip-hop with the sort of like piano type stuff incorporated into the beat, but it's a nice little reminder of what rap can do when you include these kind of instrumentals, because it's actually really good. Boblo is this mellowed out, trippy-ish beat, which I think J. Cole is perfect for, honestly. Like, he's kind of honed in that style now, very smooth, kind of mellow instrumentals that he's always on board with, and you know, Royce does well on this track too. And J. Cole's feature I'm fine with. Like, I know I'm pretty harsh on J. Cole overall, but I would take this kind of track over any other track that he tends to jump on, because at least there's a feature here to kind of break things up, and it's not J. Cole for the entirety of the time. That's always the big issue with J. Cole, to be honest. Strong Friend is this like really dark, ominous type track, which is perfect for the subject matter, because this track is brilliant. Like, Royce the 5'9", again, when he's on his lyrical game, he pens some sharp songs. Like, this is really really good, because I think it highlights an issue that needs to be talked about. I mean, addressing suicide is always something worth listening to if it's written well, not in like a Logic way, because that track wasn't particularly great. But here he talks about something that isn't mentioned very often, and that's the idea that no one ever talks to the strong friend, you know, the strong type figure that may appear to be fine, but you know, actually when you peel off those layers, there are big issues going on. Oh, they're always fine, you know, they're fine, you know, there's nothing wrong with them, but then it turns out actually they're suicidal and then end up killing themselves. He then goes on to list off some quotes from famous people who committed suicide, and famous people that actually speak up on suicidal issues too. And he comes out with a quote that apparently Kendrick Lamar said, which I never knew, but I really quite like this one. And he's apparently Kendrick Lamar once said, "We're all just suicidal kids telling other suicidal kids that suicide is a bad idea," which fits perfectly for this theme of this song. And then he shouts out a few people that committed suicide, Chester Bennington among many others. I just feel like there's nothing particularly negative about this song that you can pull out and say, oh, he did this wrong, because I just don't feel like anything on this track is done badly at all. Highlighting mental health issues, I just can't commend it enough. Great song, honestly. But it is a shame that many other tracks don't really fit the Book of Ryan narrative. I mean, yeah, obviously everything is about him. You know, some songs just talk about things that are going on in his life. The track Cocaine is a story which I have no interest in, and that's kind of part of the issue too. He doesn't really have that much to tell us that's really worth listening. I mean, it's kind of diary entries at some points, you know, it's like one of those things where it's like, I don't think this is something you needed to tell people, because it's not really that exciting. To say how good he can be as a songwriter, I don't think everything here is that compelling, unfortunately. For a few tracks he references some racial issues. I believe he does this on the track Woke, which isn't exactly that tied in with what this album's about, so a part of me feels like, yeah, you know, you can talk about these issues, but it's not really part of the concept. It ends up being a bit messy. It's a bit of a blah 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 of tracks kind of coming together and not really tying up that much of an interesting arc, honestly. I do think some songs really lack in production too. I think Amazing has a very weak chorus, and overall the instrumental on this track is just nothing that I would ever want to return to. Summer on Lock is another one of those songs for me. I don't know, I think Pusha T's chorus gets old after a while. Like, it's kind of okay, but then when you hear it over and over again, it gets really boring and redundant. And generally as well, just like in the mid-section of the album, I just feel like so many tracks could have just been cut off or replaced by songs that had a bit more of an interesting story to them, like I said. I think if you're gonna go all in and release an album that's incredibly personal and incredibly just like story oriented, then give us that, you know? Don't just give us songs that are about nothing, really. And the thing is that it's not that they're about nothing, but I feel like Royce is one of those people that thinks telling people everything about themselves is more interesting than it actually is. You know those people that constantly have to tell you about what happened in their day and all these things that went off. And it's like, sometimes you don't need to come out with all this crap, because like, just tell us like little parts of the day, not everything that happened, because you're telling me that you woke up and had a cup of tea and got some biscuits, and then, you know, like, you realised you ran out of cereal or some shit like that, and you then felt really mad. Royce, to me, comes across as one of those kind of people, which definitely shows up on this album, because like I said, it's filled with tracks that totally don't have that much compelling about them. I'm sure there are things in his life that are a problem to him, but I don't think he sells it that well in this album, you know? And there are some things that are worth talking about, but again, he could have wrote them in a much sharper way. To say this album did go through quite a few delays. You would expect he would have honed it all in and made something amazing, but instead it's just pretty good. I think it's a damn good album, but falls short too much. Caterpillar though, still a banger. Fucking hell, what a great song. Could be one of my favorites of the year. I can see myself returning to that. And yeah, overall I'm gonna say C plus. Just could have been so much better. I mean, it really could have. There was so much potential here. But we'll see how he goes in the future, because again, he can pen a great song when he wants, but just not every track here is worth hearing. Let me know your thoughts on this album if you've heard it. Subscribe to the channel for more reviews. Comment your best songs if you've heard this album and all that kind of stuff. Subscribe for more reviews, podcast interviews, track reactions, everything music related, and have a good day.